That looks a little weird, but we'll go with it. So thank you again for all being here today. Um, so like I said, we're presenting this as part of our financial literacy series. If you have questions at any point, feel free to add them into the chat. You're going to hear a lot from me today. You'll get all of this follow up in an email later this week. So you will have all of the slides, you'll have the recordings, and then there will be some extra resources in there. That email will also include a survey to let us know how we did today. I went a little too far already, but there'll be a survey to let us know how we did today. We welcome all of your feedback. If you put your contact information on that survey, we will enter you to win a $25 gift card as a thank you for providing that feedback. And then for those of you who are here today, for having registered and shown up, you are entered in to win a $50 gift card. So if the name that appears in our participant list is different than the name you may have registered with, feel free to send me a chat with what name you registered under so I can match it up and make sure that you're entered to win that. So here are the things that we're going to be talking about today. It's obviously all about savings. We're going to look at what America Saves Week is, why you should save your money, how to think about how much to save, some tips and resources to help you reach those savings goals, and then some help that you may be able to access along the way. First, what is America Saves Week? So I picked this topic because next week, February 27th through March 3rd, is America Saves Week. And that is just a call to action for all of us to commit to saving successfully and reducing debt. And I will share information about this in that follow-up email. There will be a pledge you can take if you want to take the pledge. And by signing up and doing that pledge, the people who run America Saves Week will send you information and resources to help you reach those goals. They have various checkpoints in also. So why save your money? There are lots of reasons, and these reasons are going to be different for all of us. You want to think about what is important to you and what are goals that you want to achieve. So these are just a few things on the screen. It may not be all encompassing. So personally, I'm not planning to go back to school. So that one in the bottom row, go to school. It's not something that is of value or importance to me at this point in my life. So I would not be saving money for that. However, if you know that you want to go back to school, get a certificate of some type, get a degree, or maybe you have a family member that you want to help support, you might be saving for that goal. And even so, we have differences between what we value and what we're saving for, which is totally fine. And even if two people have the same goal, if they both want to take a vacation, if you're going to different places, you may need to be saving different amounts of money. So if you're going to Erie, it's going to be a lot more affordable than taking a 2-week trip to Europe or something. So even within similar goals, there are going to be different things that people are trying to reach for. And basically, it is just all okay that we've got different things that we're wanting to reach for, things that we value, and what is important to us. So as you're thinking about building your goals, you always want to think about how much do I need to save? And again, this is going to be a little different based on the goal that you've picked. So if you have picked a goal for a vacation, it's obviously going to be a smaller amount of money than a goal of maybe purchasing a house or saving for retirement. So as you think about how much you need, your answers are going to be different based on what you want to save for. And you should also think about, what do you consider success? Is it any money that you save towards your goal? Or do you really want to hit a specific amount? If you've never tried to save money before, maybe success to you is just saving any little bit. But if you're like, I need a new washer and I know I need X hundreds of dollars to buy a new washing machine, you'll know that you need to hit that specific amount. As you're thinking about how to reach your goals, I would encourage you to set what are called SMART goals. So SMART is an acronym. It stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. So let's say I want to go on vacation to Lake Erie this summer. This is a very specific goal. I want to go on vacation to Lake Erie. I have done the math. I know how much it's going to cost in a tank of gas to get there and back, how much my hotel might cost. I've decided I want to go to the Erie Zoo, and I want to do that. And I have estimated an amount of money that I want to spend on food. So if I think I need $500, I've done some math, I've calculated out. $500 is very measurable. You'll either know you hit your 500 or you'll know that you missed your target by a little bit. Achievable. So $500 by the time July comes around, that might be achievable for you. You're not saying I have to have $500 in the next week, maybe, but you're also not saying I'm going to try to save $3,000 to go to Europe in a couple months. So set yourself an achievable goal within the time bound that you set. Relevant. This goes back to what we value. Again, I am not planning to go to school anytime soon, so I'm not going to set a goal for myself of saving money for school. So that wouldn't be relevant for me, but I want to take a vacation, so that is relevant. And then time bound is just putting a time frame on it, which will help you stay on track. So if you want to save your $500 by July 1st, that gives you about 4 months to do it. You would know that your 500 divided by 4 is about 125 you need to save every month. So these are very specific numbers that you can come up with within your time frame. Hopefully you can hit that 125 every month to get to your amount. If you save extra 1 month, it just means you can save a little bit less in another month, or maybe you hit your goal earlier. And as you're setting your goals, it's always great to take some time to reevaluate them. Maybe your priority changes. Maybe you've been saving money to go to Erie, but then something comes up and you actually want to go somewhere else. That's okay to change your goal. You just need to reevaluate how much time you have to spend toward that, how much money you might need to be saving. Also, if you're planning to save some amount of money and you don't quite hit what you need, don't be too hard on yourself. If you've never tried to save money, you've at least started somewhere, which is more than some people do. And you can look back and ask yourself, why didn't I hit my goal? Maybe I fell a little bit short because I went out with friends one weekend instead of staying home, and I could have saved that money towards my goal. So think back to that time you spent going out with your friends. Were you just like having fun on the weekend, going out for dinner? Maybe in the end, you realize you wish you would have saved that $50 because you really want to take your vacation. The next time that a chance comes around to go out with friends, maybe you skip it so that you can reach your savings goal. However, if you had a friend who's like moving out of state and it's the last time you'll see them for a really long time, maybe it was really important to you to be able to go and spend time with them that weekend and go out with them. So if you don't hit your goals, it's not the worst thing. You just want to think about what happened and maybe reevaluate how you can reach your goal going forward then. As you think about things that you want to save for, I would really encourage everyone here to save for an emergency fund. So this is something, obviously use it for emergencies. It's not to like buy yourself a new television if your TV dies, but it is for things like you have an unexpected medical bill, a car repair, maybe your washer died and you really need a washer. You don't have access to a laundromat, so you want to be able to do that at home. Maybe your fridge dies. You certainly don't want to lose all your food. Even if you've had a job loss, your emergency fund can help float you until you get your new job. This may not include things like going out all the time. If you go out a lot now and that's part of your budget, that's great. But maybe if you're in an emergency situation or you've lost your job, you may reevaluate if that is where you want to spend your money. So you'll want to think a little bit, how much do you spend on average in a month? Times that by 3 or 6, and that can give you another amount of money that you aim towards. And then our last point on this slide, obviously use it if you need it. If you've hit an emergency situation, and you've got that money there, please make use of it. That will help so you're not taking on more debt or having to borrow from a friend or family member. Just remember to then replace that money. Once you've used it, you are in the habit of saving towards it. So just funnel some money back into your savings account to make up for what you have used. And then it will be there if you would happen to have another emergency. The other thing I had some questions on our registration form was retirement and what do you do about retirement? So some things to think about, how much. This is not an easy answer because it's going to look very different for each of us, but the research out there shows that whatever you make right before you retire, you would want to be able to replace 70 to 85% of that income when you're in retirement. They don't say you need 100% because when you're retired, you don't have as many expenses like having to drive to work. You don't have that wear and tear on your car. If you take the bus, you're maybe not needing a bus pass that you can use every day. Maybe you're just like taking trips on the weekend. So some of those expenses will be less. You're not having to buy specific clothing for work anymore. So that's why they suggest replacing 70 to 85% as you're a retiree. So, for example, if at 65, when I go to retire, which hopefully I can retire at 65, we'll see. If at 65 I'm making $35,000, that means to hit that 70 to 85%, I would want enough in my retirement account that I can be able to pull out about $24,000 to $29,000 every year. So I'm not having to make up a full 35%. I can have a lower amount. The other part that goes with this, everyone always asks about Social Security. So if you've been working and paying into Social Security, you will have that you can use when you get to your retirement age. The one tip on that is please don't fully rely on Social Security. If you do some reading, you'll see that it's designed to only to only make up 40% of your retirement income, not 100%. It's never going to make up, it may not make up that $24,000 that I know I might need to be pulling out in retirement. It should only be planning to make up part of that. And then hopefully your other retirement accounts can make up the rest of that money. Enjoying retirement on your terms. This again will impact how much you think you need to save for retirement. If you want to travel a whole lot, you're going to need more money in your retirement than someone who just wants to be a homebody and doesn't want to travel. And that's fine if you don't want to travel. Or maybe your travel is less expensive than someone who's like, I'm going to travel the world. If you really like camping can be a lot more affordable than having to pay for things like plane tickets or cruises or something. So you'll want to think about how do you maybe want to spend your retirement years, and if you think that means you'll need more or less income. There's also things like, are you a homeowner and are you going to have home expenses in your retirement? You might want to save a little more money than a person who is planning to live with a kid or a niece or a nephew, because maybe that kid or niece is paying for the housing costs, so they don't need to save as much money. Hopefully you ask your kids ahead of time if you can live with them. But if they're cool with it and they're paying for their house and you're just living there, you may not need as much as someone who is still having to pay their own housing costs. And then as you're saving for this, you want to think about where to save this specific retirement money. So retirement money is a little different because it is usually invested somewhere. The two ways to do it: if you're working, you have the option to save at work usually, or you can make some choices and save on your own. So if you have the ability to save through work, your work may have something that's a pension, a 401k, or a 403b. Some nonprofits, their thing is called a 403b. Then you'll hear there are usually rules related to this. They usually will say, hey, if you contribute 5% of your income, we'll match that a little bit, which is always great because it's free money that you can get to put towards your retirement. So again, go back to that example I had. If I'm making $35,000 a year and my company says if I contribute 5%, so that's about $1,700, and that's divided out between the entire year, all of your 26 paychecks. If I contribute 5%, they'll give me another $2. So that's an extra $700 that can go into my retirement. Now, granted, $700 on its own, I know doesn't sound like a lot, but the thing with retirement plans is, since I said they're usually invested somewhere, that money will grow over time until you need to use it. And if you're starting early, if you're in your 20s, it's a really great place to start, but starting at any point is better than nothing. If you can start it early and have it grow for a couple of decades, it will grow into something that's a lot bigger. So 700 doesn't seem very impressive right now, but you're getting that 700 every year and it will grow bigger and bigger on top of what you're also contributing. The other things that you can do on your own, there are things called IRAs or Roth IRAs, and then SEP plans. So those are sometimes self-employed individuals can contribute to those on their own. Again, these are usually invested somewhere. If you don't have the opportunity to invest through your work paychecks, you can just open an account, a Roth IRA somewhere, and send money there on a regular basis. If you're doing it on your own, I highly suggest trying to automate it. If you have the ability in your bank account to say, let's send $100 every month, maybe. into this retirement account. If you automate it, it's great because if you forget to do it on your own, you have lost the chance of investing. But if it's automated, it just does it in the background for you. And that money is going to continuously flow to your account. Because if you do it on your own, sometimes you get busy and you forget for a month or two. So you won't miss those payments. If you're doing retirement programs and investing, you will want to sit and think where you want to be investing that money and think about things like how much risk you're willing to take on, which comes into play if you're buying things like stocks versus bonds versus mutual funds. If your account is through work, it's probably invested through some company, Corebridge or Vanguard, Fidelity maybe. You likely have access to some training materials through those companies. They often write blogs, they sometimes do webinars. You might have something like one free financial counseling session a year with them. So if you have that option, I highly suggest you make use of that. So like, for example, I am not a certified investment planner, so I can't give you any like real specifics about how you should invest or where or why. But those people do that on a regular basis. They are certified to do that, and they will guide you through that process a lot better than I could because they do that all the time. I can say though, please think about investing in either a work plan or on your own, because the ability is it will grow over hopefully a couple decades if you have before you retire. The other nice thing about investing through work is usually how it happens is that money is considered whatever contributions you're making on the regular comes out before they tax whatever your income is. So it can help lower the amount of tax that you pay throughout the year, which is always great. And then for all of these, if you are investing, you can sometimes earn a tax credit, which is called the saver's credit. So because you're saving for your future, sometimes you qualify to get a little bit of a tax credit, which may help you get a refund also. All right, so those were the two big things I wanted to share. Obviously, there are other things that you want to save for, which if we have specific questions about that later, we can talk about it. But how to really get to the point where you can save money. If you haven't tried to save money at all, you're going to need to build some habits so you get used to this. So if you have saved for a while, you maybe have heard some of these things, but just stick it out because we might have a new person on here who hasn't tried to save before. And there are lots of ways to build the habit of saving up. So an easy one is saving your change. If you use cash on a regular basis, I've seen people get like coins and bills back at the register and they just dump all of their coins in that little like penny container, take a penny container. And maybe 25 cents or 10 cents doesn't mean a whole lot to you at the time. But if you're doing that on a regular basis, if you're paying with cash on a regular basis, that all adds up to money that you're leaving behind somewhere. So save your change. If you swipe a card, a lot of banks now will also offer the option that whenever you swipe, they will round up your purchase to the next dollar and move those pennies or cents into a savings account. So if I bought something for $4.50 on my card, the bank will round it up to $5 and then move that extra 50 cents over into my savings account. So that's another great way you can kind of set that rule in your banking and then forget about it. And every time you swipe, it's going to help you save a little bit of money and move it into your savings account. Another good one is challenge yourself. So you have maybe heard different savings challenges, things like save $1 every week for a year. If you would do that, it helps you get into that habit of making sure you're setting something aside. $1 a week a year is only going to be $52. Maybe that doesn't seem like a lot to you, but if you've not saved anything before, it's a really great starting place. If you're doing really good saving that $1 every week, you can always bump yourself up. Maybe you save $2 every week, or maybe you save $5. And all of that will build over time. There are also some challenges that say, in the first week of the year, save $1. In the second week, save $2. And the third week, save $3. So it builds like that throughout the entire year. It's also a great way to challenge yourself. If you've tried the like $1 a week thing, maybe you want to try something that's progressive like that. And as you're saving all of this money, you just want to be making sure you're putting it someplace safe, whether that's your piggy bank. I highly suggest bank accounts though, so you can earn interest on it. If you've never done the saving habits before and you're still trying to get into it, you don't have to change all of your spending habits at once just to save money. You can start small. And by do that, you can skip buying one thing at a time. You've probably heard this before, like, oh, if you drink Starbucks every day, stop buying Starbucks and you'll save $5. I've never actually known anyone who can afford to buy Starbucks every day and spend $5 every day on that. I don't think many of us do that. So that is not really a useful savings suggestion for most people, I think. But if you do something like drink coffee on the regular, does your work have coffee and you can drink it there instead of buying it, even if it's McDonald's or Dunkin', which is usually less expensive than Starbucks? Or if you are going out to buy coffee, regular coffee is going to be a little cheaper than the fancy drinks with like the foam and all of the things they add to it. So you've still spent money on coffee, but maybe think about, did you save $1 buying just a regular coffee instead of the fancy drink? That dollar that you saved, that's what you're going to then put into your savings account. And that can work with lots of things. It doesn't have to be coffee. Maybe it's not eating out once a week if you tend to eat out a lot. It can be anything like that. For borrow in the top of the next column, if you're a person who likes to read a lot or watch movies, maybe don't buy the book the first time it comes out or buy the movie right up front. Libraries are great and they're free and you can get just about anything. If your local library doesn't have it, they can order something for you. With brand new movies that come out, you might be on a waiting list for a little bit of time, which to me, I've always been fine waiting because I don't want to spend $20 or $25 on a movie that I'm going to watch once. So think about if you can borrow from anywhere. And with borrowing, can you get things for free? I am a member of what's called a Buy Nothing group on Facebook, and there are a bunch of these for different communities in the area. And the whole point is to literally not buy anything if possible. So people are always listing things that they want to get rid of, and you just tell them, like, hey, I would like your free thing. There's always kids' clothes and shoes on there. So if you've got kiddos at home, there is always a ton of clothes around, at least in the group that I'm in. I've used this a lot. I've gotten a free window air conditioning unit, so I saved $200 by doing that. I have gotten curtains from there and purses. So that's a great way that you can get things for free, and it's based on the neighborhood that you live in. So you're literally borrowing from your neighbors, and then you can list things that you don't need anymore either. Can you go cheaper on anything? If you do like to watch those movies, do you need to maybe save some money and get a Redbox rental instead of going out to the movies? That would save you a little bit. And then that small savings, you'll just add that to your savings account and that can grow over time. Maybe you try to buy generic versions of something or shop at Save-A-Lot or Aldi's. I'm really bad at shopping at my Giant Eagle because it's close to where I live, and Giant Eagle is expensive. So I have even had to shift myself more and more to make sure I'm going to Aldi's because it's much more affordable. And when I say generic, I am convinced that Cheerios are only good when they're actually name brand Cheerios. This is me. So I'm not going to spend the money on a generic of Cheerios because I know I'm just going to be disappointed. But I really like the version of Rice Chex that Aldi's has. So I've traded that in my life. There's one name brand when I do buy Cheerios, I know I'm going to buy those. But I know on other cereals, and I do love cereal, that I can switch and buy something that's more affordable than buying all name brands. So those are always things you can try. Maybe you try getting a frozen pizza instead of ordering pizza at your local pizza place. That's always an easy savings also. And then you've probably heard other tips about how to save money, like compare prices between places, use coupons if you have access to coupons. I think instead of having paper coupons a lot anymore, there are a lot of websites where like you can upload your receipts and they'll give you some money back that way, like you get little rebates instead of like having a paper coupon. That also works. Another good one is actually make a shopping list for yourself and just buy what's on the shopping list. I'm also really bad at shopping when I'm hungry and buying a lot of things that I don't actually need. So when I'm being good and I make my shopping list and just buy what's on the list, if I saw something that I wanted, but I didn't buy it because it wasn't on the list, I like treat myself then by moving what I would have spent on that thing into my savings account. So you can try to do that to save some money also. And then conserving, this has to do with some like less tangible things, but if you also build a habit for yourself of maybe you turn off the lights if you're not in a room, like taking shorter showers or not letting water run when you brush your teeth. It's amazing how much water we waste doing those things. That will be savings on your utility bill that you'll eventually see. And then the money that you save there you can put it towards a savings goal. I even do weird things like when I hard boil eggs, you use a whole pot of water just to boil the eggs, and then you need a whole nother pot of water that's cold to cool them down. And I take that water once it's cool and I water my plants with it. So that's a way instead of having to use even more water, and I can save a little bit in that way. Probably also heard things how to conserve. In summer, maybe you set your temperature a little higher before your air conditioner kicks on, or in the winter, if you have the ability to set your heater a little bit lower and then just bundle up with some hoodies or blankets. You've probably heard those things. You might be doing them already, but if not, that could be something you can think about. Save some money on your utility bills and then move that over into your savings. And then are there any things that you can do temporarily? So on the left, you'll see we've got our short-term pain for a long-term gain. Not that I want anyone to be feeling pain as they're doing this, but can you make a change just for a short amount of time that will help you hit a savings goal faster than you may have reached it otherwise? So some of that, there's two options: either bring in extra income or cut expenses during that set time frame. So if you're looking to bring in extra income, do you have the ability to take on a part-time job? And you don't have to do this forever. You don't have to do it for even a year. If you do it for a couple months, does that help you hit your goal faster? And if you're taking on any additional jobs and you have the chance to get direct deposit, have them direct deposit that directly into your savings account. So you're not even tempted to touch it in your checking account. So can you take on a part-time job? Think about what you're good at. If you like babysitting or pet walking, which I've got our pet sitter here, can you do any of that in your free time and earn some money that way? If you're good at customer service, there are a lot more work from home customer service jobs than there were before the pandemic. So maybe that's something you can do a couple evenings or on a weekend. Other things you're good at, if you're really good at art, can you make things and sell them on a site like Etsy? Or if you really like thrift shopping, I've seen people do this, that they go to their Goodwill, find the good things at Goodwill, and you can resell those things on eBay. Along with this are all of apps that you can do like Uber and DoorDash, Instacart, Lyft. You can do all of those things. I will warn you, for whatever thing you're doing to bring in extra income, please think about the tax implications of that. And I say that because I work at our free tax site also, and I've seen people come in very frustrated that they didn't realize how driving Lyft might impact their taxes. If you're doing things like Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, Instacart, that's all considered self-employment income. You will want to track your expenses, like everything you spend related to that job. If you're doing mileage, track your mileage, like the trips that you're taking between driving, picking up one person to drop them off, going to the next one. You'll also want to track your mileage from your house to your first pickup or back home at the end of the night, because those are all things that get used on your taxes. If you're paying any fees related to using the app or needing to pay anything related to any of those companies, if you have any supplies, things like that, you will want to track those expenses because you're going to need it on the other side when you file taxes next year. But maybe that's worth it to you because it gets you the extra income you need. If you're really good at keeping track of those things, maybe you don't feel like that is a burden. If you don't want to have to deal with those things, I would suggest finding a job that is a W-2 job. So those are usually, like if you're getting a part-time job at Target, that's going to be a W-2 job. Make sure to confirm this before you start working somewhere, how they're paying you, so you know how that might impact your taxes. And then cutting expenses during a set time frame. Again, any change you make here doesn't have to be permanent. Can you do something for just a couple months, and whatever you're saving, it helps you reach that savings goal that you're trying to hit? I've got our streaming service here. I swear 10 to 15 years ago when Netflix was just coming out, the idea was to cut cable because that we all spent way too much on and get a streaming service that was cheaper. And now there's a million streaming services. So if you're paying for several of them, are you saving any money over having cable? Potentially not. But do you need all of your streaming services at the same time? Maybe you cut one for a couple months. You might realize you didn't actually need it, and then you never need to spend that money again. Or maybe you realize you missed it and you go back to paying for it in a couple months, and maybe you cut a different one of your streaming services for a couple months when you bring the other one back. So that's like an easy way to think about it. Can you, if you eat out a lot, can you maybe not eat out as much or at all for, again, just a set time frame, a month or 2 months? That can help you save a lot of money. It'll also help you cook some food at home, so you'll gain some really great culinary skills, hopefully. Maybe think about not paying for drinks when you're out. And this can be alcoholic or not alcoholic. Soda, if you're going out to places a lot of the time, it can be anything like $2 or $3. And that adds up over time. It really does. Or you can think about not having alcoholic drinks outside, because again, those can be really expensive. So can you make any little changes that, again, are just temporary, and hopefully it will help you hit that goal that you're hoping to hit? Checking your income is also a really great place to start. Obviously, if you don't have any expenses that you can cut, we should look at other ways that we can increase the amount of money coming into your household. Instead of finding a whole new job, sometimes the easiest thing to do is ask for a raise. Can you ask for a raise at work? Is there a place you can get promoted at work, or maybe shift into a different position that pays a little more? Will your company pay you more if you get a certification or complete a training? Those are all good things to look at, because you've already got the job, you're already established there, and it's maybe a smaller change than having to find a whole new job or a whole second job. However, if your company doesn't pay you really great, to reach the income goal that you want, maybe it is looking for a new job. So you can think about doing that if that fits your situation. And then whatever is that extra income that you've earned, again, I said this earlier, like, don't try to live on that. Try to put that directly into your savings if possible. Our bonus paychecks twice a year. If you are paid twice a month, like on something the 15th or the 30th, this won't really apply to you. But if you're just paid every other week regularly, by doing that, you get 26 paychecks in a year. And there's always going to be 2 months where you then get 3 paychecks, because they're like 5 weeks in those months. So if you have your budget and expenses set up that you know you use the money from those 2 paychecks each month, when it gets to the month that you've got your 3rd paycheck, you don't necessarily need that to pay for your regular expenses. So you've got an entire paycheck, or maybe a large chunk of it, that you can move directly into your savings. And hopefully that will help you hit a really big goal quickly. Consider using benefit programs. So these are things like SNAP. Maybe you qualify for LIHEAP. Maybe you qualify for Medicaid. So some of them increase your income. SNAP is going to give you money to spend on groceries. Some of them may just eliminate expenses, like Medicaid. If you're getting free medical assistance, you're not then paying for maybe as many doctor appointments, or medications have a lower fee that you need to pay. If you qualify for them, I highly suggest using them. They're there to help you. Please don't be ashamed. I hear that from people sometimes, like, oh, I don't want to use that. Almost when people use that, or I'm ashamed to have to go through the checkout line with my SNAP card. Having been a cashier at Walmart, I didn't care what you paid with as long as you paid for your food. So I think a lot of that is internalized that we put on ourselves, and it shouldn't need to be that. If you qualify for a program, please apply for it, make use of what is out there. By you using one of these programs, you're not like preventing someone else from getting use of them also. Money, like if you qualify for SNAP, any amount of money that you directly aren't paying for food because SNAP is paying for it, you can move that chunk of money into savings then maybe. Saving at work, we talked about it earlier. Use those retirement plans if it's available. Get your free matching dollars, because again, free money on the table, why not take it? See if your work can directly deposit any of your income into your savings. So maybe you don't want to put your entire regular paycheck into savings. You need some of that in your checking account to actually pay your bills. But ask at your work if they can do something like put directly 10% of what pay you would get into your savings. That's another one of those, it's been automated. You don't have to move it yourself because you might forget to move it. It's going directly into there, and it starts earning interest in your savings account as soon as it gets in there. Also, if you're going to get a tax refund, if you have filed your taxes or will be doing that soon, think about putting part of your tax refund directly into your savings account. So again, instead of it hitting your checking account and you spending all of it or forgetting to move some of it at some point into savings, just have it directly put there. You can also do things like buy savings bonds with your tax refund, which is a great way. Those earn interest and grow over time. So those are always great for yourself, or maybe you want to encourage kids or grandkids to save. You can get them a little savings bond and they can see how that increases in value over time. And then also with that is just file your taxes in general. So again, I work at our free tax site, which there will be information if you're interested in that in our follow-up email, how you can make use of that. But file your taxes. You might qualify for a credit that you didn't know you qualified for, and you'll get that as part of your refund back in your tax refund. So why not take that free money again that the government is willing to give you? And then think about putting that directly in your savings. So I had a few questions on this also on our registration, where to save your money. And where you save is going to change based on what you're saving for. If you're saving for an emergency fund, you want that to be accessible like immediately if you have an emergency and you need to get cash. So I would suggest a savings account at a local bank or credit union. You can walk in or go to an ATM and get cash if you need that right away. A high yield savings account is just a savings account. It gives you a higher percent of interest. A lot of the time, high yield savings accounts are at online only banks. So they don't have like a storefront you can walk in and get your money. They're not paying for storefronts. So that's why they can give you higher interest rates. Your money may take a little bit longer to get to you. So it might not be great for an emergency fund if it's going to take maybe 3 days for your money to get to you in a cash or in a check that they mail to you. But if you're saving for a house and you've got some time, it would be okay if maybe that check takes a little bit of time to get to you. Retirement account, I talked about this. You're going to be doing some investing here. Whatever company you pick, you'll want to see what products they offer you, where you can invest that, what training they offer to help you understand what those investments look like. And you can do if your company has one, you've pretty much just got one chance of who you get to invest with. But if you're doing your investing on your own, do some Googling. There are websites like NerdWallet and Bankrate that will help explain the differences between some of the different companies for you. There are things called certificates of deposits or CDs. These are through your local bank or credit union. It will hold your money for a set amount of time and you can't get it back without paying a fee. So you might get a CD for 1 year. They have other timeframes, but we'll use the example of 1 year. You can't access your money for a year, but at the end of that year, you get your money that you put in plus the interest that it earned during that time. And then you can transfer it into your regular account if you want. It might offer a slightly higher interest rate than your basic savings account, but the trade-off is hopefully you don't need that money during that 1 year. There are also things called treasury bonds, which you buy through the federal government. They're kind of similar to CDs. You put an X amount of money in, you aren't supposed to cash it out for so much time, but it will also earn interest over time. And recently they've been having some higher interest rates. That may change depending what the federal government does with all of our interest rates. You'll see that there is not your mattress listed on this slide. There's not a piggy bank listed on here. It is a good idea to have some cash on hand at home in case you need it in an emergency. But if you're saving a lot of money, even a couple $100s, I highly suggest at least getting a savings account for yourself. Because you'll earn interest, so you'll have more money at the end than what you put in, which is really great. But also, you don't have the chance of losing it or it being stolen if it's in an account versus it's just at your house. Hopefully no one's house gets broken into, but there's that chance that you might lose your cash if you just have all of your cash at your house. Again, hopefully no one ever has to deal with a house fire or a flood. A lot of Western PA is in a floodplain. If you're only keeping cash at your house, you're risking potentially losing it versus if you can keep it in a bank account, which are insured and you can get your money if you would need it. Finally, this is like one of our last slides. So this was obviously like just a quick and dirty summary of how you can save money. And like I said, it's going to look very different based on each of us, what our goals are, how much we might need to be saving. I highly recommend the Pittsburgh Financial Empowerment Center. They're one of our partners. We love working with them. They provide free personalized financial counseling for you. And it's one-on-one counseling, or if you're married, it's maybe two-on-one counseling, but you're not here in a big webinar sharing your business necessarily. It is very individualized to what is your goal. You get to identify what your goal is. They can help you look at how can we reach that goal? Where is there maybe money you can save somewhere to put towards your savings? The follow-up email will have information about how to sign up for those free counseling sessions. They do them in person, they do them over Zoom, and there's several wonderful counselors that you can work with in this area. As long as you're 18, you qualify for their service. So I would recommend reaching out to them.